important to talk to those advisors, including your parents if you're young enough and still have them to trust. It's a good idea to find out if, in fact, buying a house makes sense to you. Some people should actually just stay renting because of the way that their lifestyle is. But real estate overall, long periods of time actually equates to be a good way to save money in the form of equity. You're not paying somebody else's mortgage. So that is something to consider. In addition, when you buy real estate, when you own something, there's that pride of ownership that carries over. So really, people, neighborhoods, and cities, they find that the better established areas that involve home ownership actually tend to be safer versus the areas that are just filled with people that are renting. So from a lifestyle point of view, it could be that property ownership might be right up your alley. One of the things I talk to my clients about whenever we're approaching real estate is the inspection process. Because at some point you're going to be, well, if you choose the residence, you're going to have it inspected. Inspectors should you be hiring? Now, of course, everybody knows there should be a general home inspector. That home inspector should actually have the credentials necessary to be able to do a good job and also provide for you a report that's conclusive that covers all of the systems. In addition, that home inspector should have the wherewithal. If there's something they don't know about, don't guess. If it's something about something that isn't exactly their forte, they should be able to have the due diligence to tell you that, in fact, this is the type of person you need to hire to inspect this further to make sure that you're not making a bad decision, or that it's something that you can follow up with the seller and see if they'll be able to attend to it. When it comes down to requesting repairs for home buyers, a lot of people really want to actually ask for more than maybe they should. And depending on the market and depending on the specific one, to tell them what to ask for and what not to ask for. But in essence, the request for repairs, that request is typically about things that weren't known at the beginning. If you walk into a house and you see that the paint needs help, usually that's something you accept when you write your offer, or you put in the offer, hey, listen, we want the house paint being part of the negotiation process. When a home inspector comes and looks at the residence, a lot of people don't walk around with the home inspector, and I say they should, if the home inspector allows it, of course. There are certain home inspectors that really don't want to talk about anything inspection process because interrupting slows their flow and they might miss something. And I do appreciate that, especially if the home inspector is really that attuned to each and every detail. So maybe you might want to wait until the recap at the end. With home inspectors, usually at the very end, they'll bring everybody together. And a lot of times the mistake is made that the seller's present, not that we're trying to hide anything from the seller, but when the seller's there, the home inspector is talking to the buyer and the buyer's agent about what they've discussed. Sometimes the sellers jump in and say, well, that's not true. Let me show you this. Let me show you that. And in essence, it does create a lot of animosity between the home inspector and the actual seller, and could be an obstacle for the buyer that needs to be overcome later when the buyer's asking for request or requesting some type of repairs or credits to deal with what the home inspector found. There are various thought processes as far as standards go. Some people might say, yeah, this standard's fine, but the home inspector might say, well, that standard's fine, but it was fine 10 years ago. Building codes and rules have changed, so it does have to be updated, and then run into an issue with the seller say, no, it doesn't, and then we have a problem. So it's usually better, if you're going to be discussing matters with your home inspector after you get the inspection done at the property, that you do it out of earshot of the seller. When people walk into residences, a lot of times they don't realize that they're on audio recording. In some states, I believe, they do have to say whether or not you're being video recorded or having audio taped at a particular residence as people are visiting the house. In California, it's very apparent whether there is or whether there isn't. I know everybody has Ring doorbells or some type of device that'll film you going up to the residence. All I would tell my clients is when we're looking at properties, make sure you don't say too much in the residence, especially if it's going to have a negative tone. That really does upset sellers, and if in fact it turns out to being that this house is the one you write the offer on, sellers will review those audio and video recordings and say, well, aren't these the same people that said our house was horrible? They couldn't imagine living here. So watch out with what you say. Whenever you're buying real estate, whenever you've completed the process, and even during the process, what ends up happening is you get put on these mailing lists. And it's not as a fault of your agent or even your lender, but it usually comes about you've done some inquiries online. Maybe your credit report was ran by a mortgage broker. Suddenly you start to get these extra mailings, things that you haven't seen arrive in your actual mail before, even email or even text messages. Watch out when these people are asking you for money to maybe finish the deal, or maybe something was missed in escrow. Trust me, folks, if something was missed in escrow or there was a fee you didn't pay and somebody dropped the ball, they're going to be calling you on the telephone, talking to you about it, and they're going to provide a lot more verification than getting some kind of a bill in the mail or a bill in email. So don't fall prey to that. There's a lot of scammers out there, and they're getting very good at what they do, ripping people off. Don't become one of the victims. Whenever you approach real estate, a big part of that process is trust. And of course, if you're going to be hiring a real estate agent, you shouldn't trust them right off the bat. See what they say. Look at where they are online. Review sites, those are something that might be okay, but there's a lot of them that are stuffed with friends and family and relatives that seem to do a lot of reviewing. So you need to be a good judge. And in fact, you might reach out to those friends and families of yours. Say, listen, we have this person. I'd like you to see a couple of his videos or her videos. See what they've done as far as content. Have they written a book? I have. Have they done other things that actually add to their value and at least put themselves out there publicly so they can be judged by the general public instead of just being somebody that talks about their best vacation or the last time they went out of the country with those closest to them? You want to find somebody that works diligently all the time, and their focus and their craft is the real estate process. Right now, things have changed as far as buyers go. A lot of buyers are being tasked with paying the real estate agent's commission. Buyers have always been ones that had to pay the lender fee. The lender that they hire to get them the mortgage, it's called origination. That's always existed. Now that's trickled down from the lender to also including the agent's fee. So then what does that agent about that? See what they're charging you if in fact the seller isn't in agreement with paying them to represent you. The seller now is tasked with their own side, as they always have been. Usually they also included in that process the agent's fee that's representing the buyer. Now there's a buyer-broker agreement, and that's also been in existence a long time, but now it's being utilized as of January 1st, 2025. Buyers are going to require to sign this document stating where that agent commission is going to be coming from. Right now in 2025, we still see that a lot of sellers are willing to pay the buyer's agent's fee. As the months go on, as we trickle through 2025, I think that's probably going to become more or less than it is more. So watch out and make sure the agent you select packs the gear to serve you in the real, negotiate for you and fight for you with the other agent representing the seller. It's important. See what they're talking about online. See what they're saying and see what kind of a strong personality they have, the best defense of you. Whenever people are looking for real estate, they do a lot of searching online, the real estate syndication sites, and that's great. Most of them have full MLS access. The issue is there's a lot of ads, there are a lot of pop-ups, and a lot of other. Also, you don't actually know who you're dealing with. There could be 50 or 60 agents in a particular area that are subscribing to that site, trying to get your information from you as a lead. When you go to a local real estate website, you go there, you don't have the pop-ups and ads, you're only dealing with one entity and one person. I'm not selling any data. I'm not even asking people to register or give up any personal or private information when they're on my system and searching. So you can go there and look at all the real estate inventory, not just open houses, but everything that happens to be for sale, and you can do it with total anonymity. Nobody will know what you're doing unless you're ready, and then you want to reach out to me, and I will thereby contact you, and we will start you on your real estate process. If you're a home seller and you're looking for residences online, trying to gauge value, understand that these syndication sites have built these algorithms, these computer programs, including introducing artificial intelligence into it, that basically know your search habits, know a little bit about your personality, how you do your things online, and then they're attaching values with your residents that go in line with your own personal way that you are. So watch out for that, because a lot of the systems are only giving values because they're what you want to see and what you want to hear. If you want to find out exactly what your residence is worth, the best way to do it is looking at sold properties that have closed within the last 180 days or thereabouts, within a half a mile or even less from your residence, that are apples to apples in comparison. If your house is a 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot residence located in zip code 91355 in North Park, for example, those are the residences you want to see that closed and established a value on yours. Then you want to dial it down and look at the different changes those sellers have made to the property. If everybody in a particular neighborhood has put in a pool and you haven't, then you'll have to do an adjustment. If everybody in the neighborhood has put an additional bedroom because the house was able to have that done and you haven't, then you're going to have to figure out that value and do a negative adjustment. I'm Connor McIver. Pay attention to what's going on out there, and when you're ready, I'll be here to help.